The Board of Health will go into open session for the Monday, January 9th meeting at 5:30 p.m. So the board is currently in open session. The first item on the agenda is the call to order and an executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Does someone want to read the executive session?
Sure. So executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, exemption number 3, to discuss litigation strategy with respect to the case of Mimi's Place LLC, the Board of Health of the Town of Ayer et al., Middlesex Superior Court, CA 2181 CV 4967. If discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position, and the chair so declares.
The chair so declares. Motion's made and seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor? Ms. Capino? Ms. Peters?
Aye.
And Mr. Slashky? Aye. The board will come out of executive session just to go back into open session. So at this time, the board is in executive session. The meeting of the Board of Health of January 9th has convened. The executive session and is back in open session. The first item on the agenda is public input, and there's none. Old business. Trash hauler permits were signed. Are there any that do not submit?
There's a new one that came in. So I had permit approvals at the end. So Republic Services gave us all their stuff. And there's one hauler left. It's United Hauling, which is Wind Waste.
Okay.
They did submit it. It's incomplete.
Okay.
They know it's incomplete. I called them. They know what they're missing. They said they were going to send it to me on Friday. Have it. They were missing the list of they were missing their schedule, list of clients, as well as all the vehicles that they use. And I have been asking also, because so many of the trash haulers seem to have been purchased by each other, that they really do list like what company names are on your truck. Because United Hauling is also a wheelberator and Wind Waste. Like I have the list. I've been tracking who bought who. So there is one trash hauler who has not submitted anything, and Sullivan and Son Disposal. They're out of Fitchburg. I actually called them this morning, and I got on the phone of, oh, when did you mail that? So for your records, I mailed the first notice on October 21st, and I mailed the second notice on December 2nd.
Okay. So should we follow up with the phone call saying we need it for the meeting on the 23rd?
That's what I was.
Are you guys good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll see if she gets back to me. Her boss was there. So.
Then on the 23rd, if we don't have it, we'll take whatever action is appropriate.
Yeah. So, but I do have one.
Okay.
Who's all set?
The other old business I can think of, Sandy Pond, is both tests came back. So we've met the requirements of the state that relates to the pond.
Great.
And the levels were all way below. But just for your knowledge, there's about 500 geese on the pond.
Oh, yeah.
They were all lined up facing exactly the same direction.
Oh, yeah.
Stop.
You know what that means.
Yep.
Stop. 2023 is supposed to be different.
Okay.
Anything else under old business you can think of? You have anything to do there?
No.
Okay. We'll go on to new business. And the first item is the 23 budget. As it relates to the budget that is presented by the Board of Health, I would stay with the same numbers that we used last year. We added money to, if we want to go to a seminar, I don't think we used it, but we did use some of that money probably for the test for the pond, so. So
Yeah.
I think, we shouldn't be in a deficit. But
Yeah.
I would go with the same amount that we had last year.
Sounds reasonable. Yeah.
So make a motion to keep the budget the same as the 2022, right? 2023.
23 budget, yes.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the 20.
Because now it's the 24 budget coming
Yeah.
up.
Okay,
Coming up.
so a motion to present the same dollar amounts as in 20.
Yes. Yes.
That your motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Motion made and seconded to submit the same budget as fiscal year 23 for the airport account. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, that's easy. Sam, if you can pull out the budget, if you have it, and change the numbers on it so we can get it to Robert. I think Robert wanted it by the end of
December. I can see what I can find.
Well, Robert should have it. If not, we'll just change the fiscal year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But level funding.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what it comes out to. And the other part of that is the Neshoba budget and whether we need to take any action. I've got all the budget presentation from Neshoba, which will be part of file from Neshoba.
Yeah.
And the director of Neshoba had presented a 5% increase. And one of the members proposed it'd be 7.5.
Yeah.
The vote came down to approve the 7.5, and Ayer was the only dissenting town. Because I thought the numbers were arbitrary.
Yeah.
And the process to me, maybe it needed to be 10% or 12%, but there was no justification for the 7.
Yeah, for choosing the 7.5.
So I voted against it. Okay. And if you two want to override me.
No, I totally agree that there's no supporting numbers there.
I wouldn't have any objection if town meeting wants to vote the 7.5.
Well, what Neshoba will present to the town is a 7.5% increase.
Yeah.
And then what town meeting does with that will be up to town meeting.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
This is the budget, and I'll give it to Sam. Other than that, that meeting the other night, and it's not on here, but while we're talking about that, Jim presented a letter, which is the change in the mass housing code.
Okay.
To allow for smaller housing structures, but they have to be owner occupied. And when Jim presented this the other night, he went through saying there are so many areas in here that have questions. It may not have been well thought out when they came up with this idea of changing the housing code. But if you want to see it,
what is it? Is it like a square foot, total square foot?
But it doesn't take into account zoning. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
So, but it would allow for someone to conceivably build a small house. But then you have to look at surge, wastewater, septic systems. So it's loaded with questions in terms of how would it actually happen.
Oh, but these are already passed.
I believe it's already.
We're saying that this is already in the method.
Yeah.
I think it's taking effect in April. And there's some significant stuff in there. And it's like,
But how can they, if that's.
So they can't, they wouldn't be able to do it if, so for example, maybe if they had a lot and they built it and it was going to be owner occupied, but if it's pre-existing, like you can't have a tiny house if you have a septic. You'd have to have a septic system or town sewer. You have to have either well or town water. That you can't get around other towns' regulations, bylaws, or anything like that. So it basically it's like I said, I don't know what I have not fully gone through it yet, but I don't know what the relevance would be.
Right, because not every, but from town to town, they're different. As far as like the size of a lot, the zoning and all that. So how could it be
So I don't know if that.
It looks like this is allowing the Board of Health.
Allowing the Board of Health, exactly.
Right, so the Board of Health may approve alternative housing that does not meet one or more of these requirements. It's not a must approve.
Okay.
And it looks like, yeah, it's square footage, electrical service, hot and cold running water, heating system. Yeah, I just wrote down the section so I can take a look at it.
It's
curiosity.
I think it's going to be difficult to administer,
Yeah.
to say the least. But if someone owner occupied could come in and say, I'm presenting this.
Right.
But we would still have to deal with
We still have violence.
zoning
Yeah,
and
zoning.
building
Yeah.
and everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It'll be interesting to see.
so that should be something to keep on file too, I think.
Yeah.
The other part of the budget from the Shilva is they are proposing an increase in all the fees for
Yes.
swimming pools. And I totally agree with all of them.
Yeah, they
I think
did.
that
Yeah,
That
that's
was at the
probably
beginning.
great there. Mhm. Yeah.
What's that?
Motels are on here.
I feel like that's set by like some mass general law.
Oh, you might be
I-
right. Yeah.
We ask that all the time,
Because that seems so absurd.
doesn't it? Doesn't it?
It's like $25.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're right, Bridget. I do recall something in the mass that. Oh,
So that's the budget. Any other questions about the budget or the process?
no,
Okay,
that sounds good.
but if the two of you decide that I shouldn't attend those meetings, then I guess let me know.
Oh, no, I reaching chickens.
I went to the first town and I was, when they voted on the increase of the permit fees. And everyone's voting and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. And I'm looking at the numbers,
Yeah.
but I don't have that much background knowledge. So then he came on the last time, which I'm so glad he did because
Yeah.
I would have gone like, okay, not realizing what he said about
Just the process.
the process and the numbers when it's supported. So
So anyhow, I
Can't argue with the logic.
wouldn't be disappointed.
Can't argue with the logic.
Applications. So we have crash hauler application, is that right? Or that's a permit, that's not an application.
Yeah.
The application I think that we have is regarding transfer of ownership, right? Which is the same. Transfer of ownership of the air motor.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that requires the board to have a public hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do we have a certain amount of time that we have to schedule a public hearing after the application is submitted? Is it?
I'm not 100% certain what the time frame is. I would do it obviously sooner than later.
Yeah.
I wanted to do we're going to do an inspection, Charlie, Bob from the fire department and myself, just a sort of a safety inspection walk through the building.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be done last week, but I was sick. So we're trying to reschedule that for possibly this week or early next week.
Okay.
So
Did
maybe
the title already change hands or is this something happening in the future?
I think they already bought it.
Yeah, I think it was sold. Understood.
Okay.
And according to the new owner, all of the long-term tenants are gone.
Okay.
So we're just gonna verify that.
And they're not looking to do long-term.
As far as I could tell now.
Okay.
So looking at dates, we're probably talking February at this point.
Do we have to post it twice? Or just?
Well, it has to be posted for 2 weeks. It has to be
Has to
published,
have two. Okay.
I believe.
We can use the one from the previous motel as a template, I think.
Yeah, should be.
I can find it, but yeah.
I think you might have it.
So we haven't scheduled meetings for February yet. Our next meeting is the 23rd.
Yeah.
you want to do it at that meeting?
On the 23rd, we're gonna.
I'm sorry, not that's January, right? February, I mean.
Yeah, so February, we will be meeting on the 6th and the
No,
20th is a holiday.
No, we meet the 13th and the 24th.
Yeah,
13th
because the 6th.
27th.
Yeah, 27th.
Yes.
Okay,
Is the 20th a holiday?
Yes.
It is.
which said presidents.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
That's right.
What's that?
13th.
13th or the 27th, I guess.
Okay.
Public hearing. For this meeting.
Well,
Which one?
No, I'm thinking the public
If
hearing.
why don't we look at the 27th? That way it gets them time, it gets the inspection, posting, all the other documents. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll meet on we'll ask them if they're available for a public hearing on the 27th.
Okay.
Okay.
So the other, the two meetings in February are the 13th and the 27th.
Right.
Hey, your pen for a second.
I'm getting
This someone gave me.
I gave you one. Maybe get that one on June.
Like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, sounds good.
It should be fairly quick.
Okay.
Oh,
You want me to keep this?
keep it, Steve. I don't want you to freeze.
Feel bad.
I'm trying so, and I can stick this. Just did my boot stuff.
So no other
stop.
applications beside that, and that takes care of the transfer of ownership here, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And trash hauler permits the last, she told us about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just
Mm,
definitely one and one sort of only complete. And I did double check the regulations to see what we can do. There's actually quite a bit. If they operate without a permit, it's $1,000 fine.
Really? No.
Yeah,
Great
there's a
to
lot
miss.
of-
Nice general law. And it's
And
right.
this is already been 2 letters, right?
Yes, there's been 2 letters, so they know. It's also, it was interesting to read. They're actually supposed to have the applications in by November 1st. I didn't know that when I sent these out. I would have sent them out for the 21st. But next year, we'll do that next year. And for every week that they're late, we're supposed to find them $25 a week.
Really? Well, like I said, give them to the 23rd and we'll pick it up at the next meeting. and
Yeah.
Go from there. Okay. Bridget.
What about, before we move off of trash haulers quickly, waste management is getting to be a problem. They're showing up in complaints. We've never had complaints before. I have waste. They come, they go, they don't come, they think about coming, but then they forget. It's like,
Actually,
and they say they're shorthanded.
they're having a severe staff issue.
We're seeing it everywhere.
Is it all the haulers or?
Any of the big ones?
Really? Okay.
They,
I'm just
they-
noticing it because they're.
So when it
Yeah.
gets bad, what we do is we call them if we have to, and that usually lights a fire.
Yeah.
But it's just
they don't comply.
It's everywhere.
Wow. Okay. Did that have anything to do with minimum wage going up? Didn't we have a minimum wage rate on the first? I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it.
I
it's just
think
been going on for about a year.
I
now.
think it's a sort of everywhere.
It's just always, okay.
And the one
Okay.
You can't blame it on people staying home and getting COVID pays. That's gone by the wayside.
I think the downside though, to take any action this time, I think acknowledging complaints. But it would be worse to have trash not picked up at all.
Yeah.
I think what's happening is people, because I notice on the Facebook, and I just noticed like the bins in my neighborhood, waste management, I think I'm the last holdout in my whole neighborhood.
All that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they've all, so I guess that's the natural way to resolve it, yeah.
I saw that.
So let's see where this goes.
Okay.
If we get the permits back and if we have to have them, then we can do that.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah,
I think right now,
And I
stretch the elastic.
and I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
they're having a hard time getting employees and keeping employees, and it's not just them, it's not just them.
Oh, it's, yeah, no, it's not, yeah. Okay.
Speaking of which, one of the interesting things that came out of the meeting on Thursday night was this one new employee, I guess, at the show, but the others have all been there at least 16 years. Right?
Wow.
25 this year.
Wow.
She started when she was 2.
Must be a good job.
Yeah, I love it.
No, you make a good job. You do.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is amazing.
But the
It's
downside
incredible.
to that is trying to attract new people, and it's very difficult.
It is. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not one of the things that has changed is, and it's just, I think social media, everyone complains about everything. And then it's like, you just have these things that you normally would be able to deal with. And then it just,
Yeah,
they constantly snowball. And it's like,
yeah.
you're just,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. But, and I think too, it's just the nature of everything after the pandemic. I think people's tolerance for everything changed.
You're right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
So, only 12 more years to retirement. Anyway, are you ready for me?
Bridget. Waiting with bated breath.
Okay, so we have just some more straggling food permits that came through.
Speaking of which, the cottage, is the cottage closed? Do they have a food permit for this year, or
Yes.
they do have one?
They have a permit. They're actually supplying the food to the shelter on Devon's. So they have a catering license. While they're doing that for the next 4 months, it's just a lot. They're not operating the restaurant component of it.
Okay.
So, but yes, and their permits here. So, it's just Barnum Road Liquors, Billiards Cafe, the cottage. So the cottage restaurant, catering, that's Billiards. They have, the cottage has 2 permits. R25 in the senior center in Ayer. So those are all just straggling permits. This is a Title V that came in for 30 Pine Ridge Road in Ayer. It needs a D box. So I'm sure they'll be applying for that.
Pine Ridge is parallel to Oak Ridge Drive.
In that.
In the back.
And then we have a permit to be signed by the board. It's for just a D box replacement only. It's following a Title V that was done at Theodore Maxon's Oniat. So again, it's just for D box replacement. So I signed it too, and then you guys each sign here.
We need to have a motion on that, or?
Yeah.
We'll have a chance.
All right. Is there a motion to grant the permit for a D box for 27 Harvard Road in there? Distribution box.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
She's made.
Yes, I'm making motion. Oh, my God. It's 2 meetings and I don't have to.
All those in favor?
Getting on the phone call.
I know. So this is after the work is done, or this is
Before.
before, okay.
Permit.
Permit to do.
In a case like this, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll let them do the work without a permit and catch up on it just because it's a single component replacement. So a lot of times what happens is people will do a Title V and it's for the sale of a home.
Yeah.
And the D box is a pretty simple component of the septic system to replace. Rather than fold them up and stall the process for the sale of the house, we just do the inspection.
We just don't see it that often.
No,
because
not
of-
Yeah, yeah, true.
All right.
Anything else, Bridget?
Mhm.
That's it.
Good for me.
Oh, the other update about the show, but it was a little thing. So an interesting development. Littleton had decided 2 years ago that they were going to leave the show, and they were trying to hire people for the town of Littleton. They have their own public health inspectors. They couldn't find anybody. So they came back to Neshoba in the spring of the year and asked if they could temporarily, and the executive board said, no, you're either in for a year
Yeah, yeah,
or you're not coming back at all.
got it.
And this may not be a short-term solution because it looks like Littleton currently is going to be obligated for 2 years. Is that right? I think that's what came up at the meeting the other night is
Yeah, I'm not.
you can't jump in and jump out.
Yeah, well, you've got a plan.
Well, budget,
Yeah.
Workflow, yeah.
active
Yeah.
personnel. So, but I think it's interesting that Littleton thought that they had a better idea. And
Yeah,
looking at staffing,
No.
they can't find people.
yeah, exactly.
And it's also hard for experience wise. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough job because a lot of people don't realize the components that go on with it between the septic system, the food, the pools, the housing,
Right.
general nuisance,
It's the different expertise.
COVID, whatever.
Yeah.
And then our nursing staff kicks in and they do the community health piece of it. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of different things that go
Yeah.
into it, and the time that you put into some of these things that you just,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just experience. Yeah.
Mm.
I think we're fortunate that we have an organization. Like
Yeah.
this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Bridget.
Thank you.
Definitely.
You know, you can't go work for them.
I'm not leaving ever. I have
Good.
I didn't see the call log, but is there anything in the call log? that you wanted to
Yeah.
put?
I meant to email it out earlier in the night.
It's okay. Is there, so did 41 West Main Street regarding the hot water regulators?
I called him, he hasn't called back yet.
The complainant you called or?
And what was the Title V? Looking for Title V.
That's who calls you. Everyone calls the town of Ayer for other towns.
I get probably, I try and write them all down, but honestly, I probably get like 4 or 5 more phone calls than this,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
all, I need my Title V. I live in Littleton and I get to go, you need to call Neshoba.
Oh, but
This is
this
not
one is
Littleton.
there. This one is there.
Yes,
is
this
that-
one actually was Ayer.
Oh, yeah, that was the one that you have in your head, I think. The
Yeah.
one we just, yeah,
Yeah, it's on this,
yes.
it's on this log, yeah.
So actually,
So what they look for is they'll call for research for their septic system to do a Title V.
Okay.
So either the homeowner or the septic Title V inspector will call our office or your office.
yes,
Looking for a file to try to locate the septic system to do the Title V.
Yeah, I was just wondering what this was, because it's a concern for health of residents, so
Yeah.
do we know,
That's
was
good.
it the?
looking for Title V report is one, and then report that you.
Oh, okay, I'm on the wrong. Ah. Jeez. That's a lie. All right.
Thanks, Trish.
And we did have the 17 tax rate, and they were concerned for the health.
Okay, and that's a separate thing. That's not related to Title V
Yeah,
stuff.
that
So
is
that-
not.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Sure.
Chicken permits. We do have someone that has not submitted their application. I wrote a letter. I'll send out a second letter.
Is this on the hill?
Get in shape.
Stay.
The attorney was supposed to, I guess. was
That's
gonna-
what you had
So-
said at the last meeting. Yeah.
So I waited a bit and no attorney called, so we'll send a second letter and then,
Is there some debate over whether they need a permit?
I don't know.
You send it certified or just general?
I'll probably just send it regular mail because she received the first one and called, so.
Okay.
Someone that has had a permit in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Administrative matters. I've got one administrative matter. Tomorrow they are having an assembly drill. The emergency management committee, whatever it is, public health emergency preparedness planner.
Yep.
Jamie Terry is doing a drill tomorrow, and it's only an assembly drill that you have to say I am available or acknowledge that you received.
Okay, this is the thing that comes to our phones. Okay.
Are you responding to that, or am I responding to that?
So you do,
And
I do, and then the other people on the list, so I already did.
You already responded? Well, good. After me, show me how I respond, because I'm not sure how to respond to this. I got the email, but I don't think they have my email on it. Or do I have to just go in and?
So you just go in and it's, I can call you tomorrow.
Okay.
You just go in and,
I've got till 10 o'clock tomorrow night, I guess, to do this. But... No, 5 o'clock. Each individual will have until 5 p.m. to respond. So I will do this tomorrow.
Thank you. I am
Thanks.
unavailable the first half of the day anyways. Tomorrow
Any bills?
No bills,
No mail?
no mail.
No permit approvals?
Wow.
And I didn't know if because we could sign a few before the meeting, if the rest of you want to show who was approved. I had some trash haulers, some tobacco permits, and a chicken permit that Steve signed prior to the holiday or after the holiday.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Vaguely when we were supposed to have a meeting, but didn't because it was a holiday.
Yes.
So this one is for public service. Prior to the meeting, Steve signed the ones for GW Shaw, waste management, crime disposal, and ratio trucking. The trash haulers, the tobacco permits, the vineyard, air convenience store on Park Street, and then the package store on Main Street. They got their permits in. And in fact, everyone got their tobacco permits in wonderfully on time and they had a schedule. And we had one more chicken permit. Michael Boven and Jessica Marion at 41 Washington Street. That address had chickens before. Those people moved out. These people moved in. I don't quite know if they inherited the chickens or did they have chickens, but either way, we've had chickens here before.
Okay.
And really knew about it.
Is there anything else coming before the board?
But anything new on mobile time reduction? Any updates or?
So when I get that correspondence, I try to forward all that stuff to you guys.
All right.
So anything that I get, I just forward it.
Okay.
I think that they were still in the process of trying to contact, or maybe they did sign a contract with the vendor, but I don't think anything has happened on site.
Okay.
But, so when someone sends me something, I just automatically forward it.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't know if anything had happened through the whole holiday thing.
No.
I don't check my emails well when I'm on
Holiday. Okay, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Motion is made and seconded. There is no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board is adjourned.